Good morning, church. How are we this morning? That's good. Thanks to our unexpected backup dancers there. Weren't they great? Did everyone have an amazing Christmas? Yes? A few murmurs. You're kind of like, yeah, it was all right. It's all right. Did everyone have a great Christmas? There we go. That's more like it. That's awesome. Hey, I just want to say a huge good morning to you guys here in the room joining us. And if you haven't been before, welcome. My name is Brad. I'm one of the associate pastors here with my wife, Jackie, who's at the back on sound this morning. Our senior pastors, David and Lil, are in Broome at the moment on holiday. And hello to you guys, because I know you're probably watching online. So hope you guys are having a great time there with the angels as well. We miss you guys so much. And thank you guys for all of your leadership. You guys are phenomenal, and you have done an incredible job of leading us through this crazy year that has been 2020, right? How crazy has 2020 been, right? Need I say any more? Like, I think I can pretty much just say, like, 2020, mic drop, see you later. Like, it's been a crazy one, hasn't it? It's been a bit of an epic fail, hasn't it, really? Like, on a lot of accounts, 2020 has been a bit of an epic fail, I think. Would you kind of agree with that? I mean, who's had a great year in 2020? Can anyone be like, yes, 2020 has been my year this year? Yeah, well, absolutely no one. If you guys can't see online, you're probably not raising your hand either, but there's no one in the room that is even going, yeah, kind of me a little bit, at least. Seeing as 2020 has been such an epic fail, I thought, well, it's kind of fitting to kind of tell you a bit of a story of one of my epic fails. And it's a little bit of an embarrassing one, but all of our guys in our old youth group, if you're watching online, I know not many of you guys are here today. A couple of them are serving in broadcast and that kind of thing, but these guys will know this story. And it goes back to a time when I was about 12 or 13 years old. I was just starting to learn guitar and learn music, and Kat, who's here, remembers around this time as well. But I was playing in an acoustic trio, right? And we were performing in a competition called Star Search. Now, this is a little competition that used to run, and there used to be local heats in each town, and then the winners would go down to Perth to compete in the heats down there. And somehow, I don't know how, but somehow we made it to the finals, right? And we were playing an acoustic rendition of Amazing Grace. That's all it was. It was nothing special. But there was a point in the song where I slid out with my little acoustic guitar, me as a little 12-year-old. I slid out on my knees to do this crazy guitar solo, again, acoustic guitar. Just imagine what it sounded like. Completely amazing. Totally. So I'm wearing knee pads under my jeans and everything, and I slide out to the front of the stage. It went really well here in Hedland. We performed at the Matt Dan. It was great. Had a great time. Made it down to Perth for the finals, and we're competing in these heats, right? And I've gone to slide out and not realise that the front of the stage is carpeted. So I've ended up sliding out on my knees, down I go, and I'm literally like on my back because I've fallen over. I look like some kind of weird cockroach, right? And I'm like trying somehow to try and save myself. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. So I just go with it and just keep doing what I'm doing, jump around on my back a little bit, do some kind of crazy thing, and then walk back and continue the song in complete shame at the back of the stage, which was hilarious. But then I get out to the foyer. It's intermission time. I get out to the foyer, and the girl that I liked had moved from Hedland to Perth and was there that night. You can just imagine I kind of died inside. Thankfully, there wasn't really a live streaming thing yet or anything like that. So thankfully it didn't go, national or anything crazy. But definitely an embarrassing epic fail. Has anyone else got some kind of crazy epic fail that they have had like that? I'm sure a lot of people can relate in some way. But we've all had fails, right? Especially in 2020. 2020 has really been like the year of the fail, right? Really has been like the year of the fail. And I found this little video. I thought we could take a look at what humanity got up to in 2020. Check this out. Oh.
Are these ready?
Yeah, I think so. You ready?
Do me up, man. Do me up.
All right.
Oh! Shoot, sorry.
Oh my gosh.
That.
Perfect. Is it even hard enough?
It's definitely hard.
Oh, Miles.
Oh!
Oh, man.
What? Dang, fatty.
Do it! No!
Wait a minute. Stop right where you're at. Stop right where you're at. Don't even move. Let me see the camera. Let me see the camera. Real quick. Wait.
Go ahead!
So just have to credit the epic last YouTube channel for that one. I did not make that, but I think it was absolutely hilarious. Some pretty crazy fails there through 2020, especially. I think my favorite is probably the one where he's in the plastic container and going down the hill, and it just completely breaks apart on him. That's hilarious. Mind you, I admittedly would try it. I think it would be kind of cool. But anyway, I digress. But maybe your year, maybe it felt like a bit like those videos, right? Maybe you kind of went through a bit of a fail roller coaster through 2020, right? Some of us have had some pretty horrific years this year. And it might not feel like it's over yet. And I think I would be doing my job wrong if I came up here and said, it's the end of the year, it's 2020, 2021 is going to be so much better. That's the end of it. It's over. There's going to be no more trouble, no more trials, no more anything. It's going to be a great year in 2021. We don't know that, do we? Because really, I hate to say it like this, but I've got to be real with you. It's really an illusion, isn't it? Like the end of the year is an illusion. It's just the rolling over of a calendar, isn't it? It's just another day. And it continues on from 2020 to 2021, right? None of us can say for certain that, it's going to be the most amazing year yet. We can certainly do our best to plan for it to be, but we can't actually guarantee that it's going to be. And it's crazy to think that, the same things that are following us around in 2020 or have been following us around are going to follow us into 2021 unless we deal with it, right? Because it is just a continuation, isn't it? So can we expect trials and troubles in 2021? Yeah, probably. And the thing is, if we're going in with the mindset that it's going to be the best year ever, and that happens, then we're going to be pretty disappointed, right? So, for me, I like to take it as a time to prepare and reflect and plan for 2021, but expect to plan for some trials as well. There's some really great teachings in the Bible that are some epic fails as well. And if you're, maybe you're new as a Christian, or maybe this is the first time, if you're online, you're joining us. Thank you for joining us. And maybe this is your first time tuning into a church service ever. you might kind of think of the Bible as this big rule book, and that might be all you've ever known it as, is this thing that says, don't do this, don't do this. Well, there is some sections in it that are a bit like that, but it's also a really great guide to life. And there's so many things that we can learn from it. It is God-breathed scripture. And I mean, time and time again, the Bible has been proven as literally like the most accurate historical source out there. And that's a legit fact. It's been proven by so many things to be the most accurate historical source over time. So I think from that, there's a lot that we can learn from that, because it's what all our ancestors and people before us have been through before. And why would you not look at that and then learn from what they've done, right? I just think that's such a cool thing to have, in our pockets, like with the YouVersion app. It's right there. But look, let's learn from a couple of biblical fails, right? So the first one I've got here, the fail number 1, everyone's going to know him. He parted the Red Sea, right? His name's Moses. I'm pretty sure everyone, whether you've been a Christian for a long time or not, you know of Moses, right? But did you know that he was a murderer before he actually parted the Red Sea or any of those miracles, right? So we're going to read through Exodus 2:11 to 15. Feel free to turn to it online, or it's coming up on the bottom of your screen as well. And I'm just going to turn to it on my awesome device as well. So everyone got there? Everyone's probably just reading on the screen. It's a good way to do it. So, verse 11. Many years later, when Moses had grown up, he went out to visit his own people, the Hebrews, and he saw how hard they were forced to work. During his visit, he saw an Egyptian beating one of his fellow Hebrews. After looking in all directions to make sure no one was watching, Moses killed the Egyptian and hid the body in the sand. That's pretty crazy stuff. The next day, when Moses went out to visit his people again, he saw 2 Hebrew men fighting. "Why are you beating up your friend?" As if he can talk. Moses said to the one who started the fight. The man replied, "Who appointed you to be our prince and judge? Are you going to kill me as you killed that Egyptian yesterday?" Then Moses was afraid, thinking, "Everyone knows what I did." And sure enough, Pharaoh had heard what had happened, and he tried to kill Moses. So you can imagine if there's like this king, right? This king, Pharaoh. He's a king. He's got some pretty hefty resources in his pocket, right? He's probably got armies and all sorts of things going on there. And he's chasing Moses, right? So Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in the land of Midian. When Moses arrived in Midian, he sat down beside a well. Now the priests of Midian had 7 daughters who came as usual to draw water and fill the water troughs for their father's flocks. But some other shepherds came and chased them away. So Moses jumped up and rescued the girls from the shepherds. Then he drew water for their flocks. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked, "Why are you back so soon today?" "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds," they answered. "And then he drew water for us and watered our flocks." And I don't know if you've read into this stuff, but watering a flock is quite an extensive thing. It actually takes hours and hours. And the fact that he just did that is quite a big thing. "So then where is he?" their father asked. "Why did you leave him there? Invite him over to come and eat with us." And Moses accepted the invitation, and he settled there with him. So then after that, that's right, backing it up a little bit, could you imagine what he kind of felt like right through that time of murder on the run, right? He's going to be on the run, getting chased by all these armies for years, and he's in hiding all over the place. It probably feels a little bit like 2020 in some ways, right? I think I can definitely relate to that in some ways. So he was a wanted man, and he ended up looking after sheep, yeah? And then it's at that point that God used him, right? With the burning bush, if everyone knows that story. I thought this was really interesting because I was like, what happened in his heart? What changed? He's gone from being a man on the run to God using him in a burning bush. What happened in between that period? And the Bible actually doesn't give us much information on that, apart from that he was really looking after sheep, right? And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, well, this shift would have had to have happened in his head, right? Something would have had to have changed in his head. There had to be some kind of mindset shift while he was in this period of epic failing, right? And I think, through this time, he probably asked God for forgiveness. And I think this probably happened quite early on, right? So he was probably caring for sheep. There's really not many people that he's interacting with. He's kind of by himself with him and God, and he's kind of talking to God. And I think he would have asked for forgiveness quite early on, but I think he probably went through something that we all go through as well, and that's he probably didn't forgive himself right away. And I think that's really interesting. Why do we get God's forgiveness straight away, but then we find it so much harder to forgive ourselves, right? Can anyone relate to that? Yeah, that's good, hey? And yeah, I think we're really guilty of that. And only then can we move forward after we've got to that point, right? So I think that's why it took so long for Moses to be out caring for sheep for years before God kind of went, I'm going to use you. Because you need to forgive yourself first. I've forgiven you. You need to forgive yourself. Maybe that's your year. What's your perspective of 2020, right? What is your perspective of 2020? Has it been a transforming year for you? Has God been doing some things and working on you, and he's been putting you through some crazy trials, some hard stuff, because he knows what you're going to need in the future? Maybe that's why your 2020 has been the way it has been. But the question is, what's your perspective on it? Because you can look at it two ways, right? You can look at it as, well as me, all this is happening to me, I don't understand why, what's going on? Or you can look at it as God's giving me some opportunities to get better as a person. And I love that perspective on it, because there's so much that we can learn from what God puts us through, right? 2 Peter 1:3 says, by his divine power, God has given us everything we need for living a godly life. We have received all of this by coming to know him, the one who called us to himself by means of his marvelous glory and excellence. Now, if God has given us everything that we need to live a godly life, how has he done that? He's probably done that through some teaching, right? And how does he teach? He teaches through trials and for putting us in hard situations that we've got to navigate our way through, right? So I love that. And I'm hoping that, in some way, some of that continues to 2021, because I think it's great that we can learn more and more. But fail number two that I've got is David. Good old David. Everyone knows the story of David and Goliath, right? Good old David and Goliath. He flinged a rock in a slingshot and killed a giant named Goliath. His early years were really, really great. And by the way, if you haven't checked it out, we've got a really great series on David that Pastor David did earlier this year as well, which is an amazing series. You can check it all out on our YouTube channel. Make sure you jump on there and have a look at it. It was right through COVID, and I think it really spoke to 2020. So look, David's early years were great. He killed a famous giant with a slingshot. That was awesome. And David, as he grew up, he was kind of known as the man after God's heart, right? He wrote a lot of the book of Psalms in the Bible, which is a lot of the worship songs that we think still come out of today. And he was really faithful all the way through his early God battles and all of that kind of stuff. But after many years, things got a little worse for him, and I kind of had to look at why. And it's not that God's favor diminished. God's favor was right there. It's actually that David, as the king, got complacent. So he actually got complacent about his position with God through that time, right? And I think we can relate to this in some ways as well, right? The devil kind of got in his head, and he was kind of like, oh, you're so favored, none of this really applies to you. You're special, you're different, that kind of a thing. Does that? I mean, we don't have that problem in 2020, do we? Like, no. Does it sound familiar? I don't know. But hey, we're going to have a look at 2 Samuel 11. Let's jump it over to that one. 2 Samuel 11. So this is the story of David and Bathsheba, right? So reading right from verse 1, in the spring of the year when kings normally go out to war, David sent Joab and the Israelite army to fight the Ammonites. They destroyed the Ammonite army and laid siege to the city of Rabbah. However, David stayed behind in Jerusalem. One late afternoon, after his midday rest, David got out of bed and was walking on the roof of the palace. He looked out over the city and he noticed a woman of unusual beauty taking a bath. He sent someone to find out who she was, and he was told, she is Bathsheba, the daughter of Elam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite. David then sent messengers to get her. And when she came to the palace, he slept with her. She had just completed the purification rites after having her menstrual period, and then she returned home. Later, when Bathsheba discovered that she was pregnant, she sent David a message saying, I'm pregnant. Then David sent word to Joab, send me Uriah the Hittite. So Joab sent him to David. When Uriah arrived, David asked how Joab and the army were getting along and how the war was progressing. Then he told Uriah, go home and relax. David sent a gift to Uriah after he left the palace, but Uriah didn't go home. He slept that night on the palace entrance with the king's palace guards. How faithful is that? When David heard that Uriah had not gone home, he summoned him and asked, "What's the matter? Why didn't you go home last night after being away for so long?" Uriah replied, "The ark and the armies of Israel and Judah are living in tents, and Joab and my master's men are camping in the open fields. How could I go home to wine and dine and sleep with my wife? I swear that I would never do such a thing." "Well, stay here today," David told him, "and tomorrow you may return to the army." So Uriah stayed in Jerusalem that day and the next. Then David invited him to dinner and got him drunk. But even then, he couldn't get Uriah to go home to his wife. Again, he slept at the palace entrance with the king's palace guard. So the next morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and gave it to Uriah to deliver. The letter instructed, so he's literally given it to the guy to take to the army, right? To the general, I guess you could say. The letter instructed Joab, "Station Uriah on the front lines where the battle is fiercest. Then pull back so he'll be killed." So Joab assigned Uriah to a spot close to the city wall where he knew the enemy's strongest men were fighting. And when the enemy soldiers came out of the city to fight, Uriah the Hittite was killed along with several other Israelite soldiers. Then Joab sent a battle report to David, and he told the messenger, "Report all the news of the battle to the king." But he might get angry and ask, "Why did the troops go so close to the city? Didn't they know that there would be shooting from the walls? Wasn't Abimelech, the son of Gideon, killed at Thebes by a woman who also threw a milestone down on him from the wall? Why would you get so close to the wall?" Then tell him Uriah the Hittite was killed too. So the messenger went to Jerusalem and gave a complete report to David. "The enemy came out against us in the open fields," he said, "and as we chased them back to the city gate, the archers on the wall shot arrows at us. Some of the king's men were killed, including Uriah the Hittite." "Well, tell Joab not to be discouraged," David said. "The sword devours this one today and that tomorrow. Fight harder. Next time we will conquer the city." When Uriah's wife heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him. When the period of mourning was over, David sent for her and brought her to the palace, and she became one of his wives. Then she gave birth to a son, but the Lord was displeased with what David had done. So that's a really interesting story to me, because from a guy who's had so much faith and been so in tune with what God wants him to do, to have such a mind shift in the wrong direction, right? There was so many points in that story, so many points where he could have turned around, repented, and be like, "I'm sorry, God, I'm going to get back on track now." But he didn't. What he did was just conspire more and more and more and more until he was at a place where he was literally plotting to kill a guy and giving it multiple attempts. Like, he was actively trying. It's like, how does, it's incredible to look at how much our mind shift can do. What would have happened, I wonder, if he had actually said sorry so much earlier in that whole process, Like, it'd be so different. It'd be so different. So look, we've run out of time for our third person, so we're going to move on, but maybe that's another message some other time. But what do these have in common? I think out of these two stories we've looked at, I think both of them, David and Moses, they both took things into their own hands when it wasn't going their way, right? And I mean, I suck at this, right? I own a business with my wife, and there's some times where I'm just like, this isn't working properly, it's not going the way we want, I'm going to make a change here straight away. And then I kind of just feel God go, "No, you just sit tight on that for a bit longer. You're rushing into this a bit much, And I think that we all kind of do that in our lives sometimes, right? We kind of rush in and take things into our own hands when it's not necessarily going the way we want it to. But we've got to remember Romans 8:28, right? So that we need to realize that God uses everything for good, yeah? And I'm paraphrasing a bit there. But God uses everything for good, and there's a reason for it. And See Victory, which is one of the songs we sing, says that in it. I think it's important that we keep in contact with God through this time as well, especially in this period of moving into 2021. What does He want us to do? What direction should we be taking in our lives? And what decisions should we be making? Maybe people are thinking about moving away and that kind of stuff. I think it's just so important that we're in tune with that. Because at the same time, I think through King David's life, right? It's interesting to think that he went so far astray, but do you think God was not speaking to him over that time? I think he probably was. I think he probably was speaking. And I think it's just a really great reminder as well that, God doesn't move, we do. And if the teacher is speaking to us, then it's probably a good idea to listen, especially if we're going to go through a trial and an assignment, right? Because that's what the test is going to be on. So I think you get it. It just really comes back to your perspective, right? What if Moses apologized to God and dealt with that earlier? What if David stopped what he was doing and apologized and dealt with it earlier instead of plotting a massive killing plan? But I think the one thing we have to acknowledge is the biggest fail of all, right? Which was obviously Adam and Eve at the fall, right? So the biggest failure of all time was obviously Adam and Eve, who ate from the tree of life, right? And brought sin into the world forever. The coolest thing about it all, though, is that God had a backup plan, right? He had an amazing backup plan, and he had a way out. But we had to wait for it, didn't we? We've got the whole Old Testament there before it happened, right? And I think he's telling us that as well at the moment. I think there are people here today that need to wait on God's word. I think God is, you've been maybe praying and asking God for something, and you're just not getting it. It's just not happening for you yet. But I think God is saying to you, just wait. It's not time yet. It's coming. It's coming. Just sit there, sit tight, and learn from what I'm teaching you through this time. And I think we've got to remember that 2020 has really been a training ground for all of us. But hey, I want to give you a chance this morning to hear from God and to Jono. I'm going to get you back up, please. Hand for Jono this morning as well, who's our only other muso. Killing it. But hey, maybe you're at the start of this journey, or maybe this is, you've been a Christian for a long time and you feel like you really need to recommit yourself to following Jesus and following his word and listening to what he's saying to you. So we're going to all pray a prayer together, but why don't we stand up first? And if you're at home, please feel free to stand up as well. Let's repeat after me. I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and the Savior of the world. I believe he died and rose again to forgive my sins and give me life. I receive your grace by faith. Come into my life. Make me new. I'll follow you. And hey, if you just prayed that for the first time, then we are cheering so hard with you right now. Can we have a huge round of applause for anyone that might have prayed that for the very first time, whether you're here today or you're online? We ask that you please do tell us or tell someone that you've prayed that, because we really want to help you on your journey. If you're online, there are chat hosts who are ready to answer your questions and to communicate and chat with you. We would love to help you. And again, if you're here today for the first time and you prayed that for the very first time and you made that decision, then please come and see either myself or Jono or Jackie or anyone you see on stage this morning. We would love to chat with you about the next steps. But hey, we're going to hop into some worship for a bit. So why don't you sit tight and sing with us.